Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Beer Battered Sports Podcast, the podcast created by sports fans for sports fans, because we believe that we're the most qualified people to talk about our favorite teams. I'm your co-host Isaac,
And I'm Kylie.
and yep, once again we have an incomplete team today. Calvin is dealing with some personal matters. Don't worry, we promise eventually. It's been a rough patch the last couple of months where we've had a combination of technical difficulties and not all of us being here, but we should get back to having the full team next week, hopefully. We
We'll
do
see.
apologize. We're trying. Life has kind of all hit us like a truck recently, and
Mhm.
but we're hanging in there, and we're bringing this show to you guys because we appreciate you guys who tune in and listen to us. So uh, thank you for thank you for sticking with us during this time.
Much
Quick
appre-
little note. What did you say?
I said it's much appreciated.
I thought you called him a bunch of something. That's what I heard over from my headphones. I don't know. Anyway, so what episode 71? Today we've got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about and recap both the NBA and NHL finals, which just both of them wrapped up in the last 2 days. I know Kylie has a lot to say about the NBA finals. We'll go over a couple of things that happened in the NFL offseason and talk about baseball as we've entered that dreaded time in sports where baseball is the only major sport on. And we're left either watching that or, I don't know, MLS.
I mean, Messi's coming.
Oh, yeah, we should probably talk about that too. But first, we didn't get a chance to talk about it this week or last week because we didn't have the show last week because everybody suddenly couldn't do it. And that is the whole controversy. And this is a sport we usually don't talk about. And this is probably the only time we'll ever talk about it. Let's quickly talk about the controversy surrounding the PGA Tour and Live Golf merging. We only going to talk about a bit because I know we don't talk about golf, and I personally can't stand golf because of how boring it is. Although when Tiger Woods does good, I'll watch. But
I like playing golf, but I can't watch it.
yeah, playing it is so much more fun. But the
Mhm.
drama surrounding Live Golf and the PGA Tour, I do want to talk about because there's a lot of strong opinions coming out about this. For anyone who needs a quick recap, Live Golf is a Saudi Arabian-based golf series that was created a couple months ago, probably about a year ago, as a direct rival to the PGA Tour. They managed to get a lot of PGA players over, but it caused a lot of controversy because one, it broke up. A lot of PGA players were banned from participating in PGA Tour because they were playing Live Golf, and two, it was backed and founded by the Saudis. Saudi Arabia is currently engaging in something called sports washing, where they are essentially trying to become a sports hub in the Middle East. I mean, with motorsports, golf, soccer, all of this, to try and hide the fact that their government is doing some really shady stuff, whether it be journalists or funding certain groups. I don't know how much I can say because I don't want us to get flagged or anything. But that's about it. The basic gist is
Too much.
golf tour run by extremely shady government of country you probably don't want to mess around with. Um,
Yeah, the Saudis have really been trying to like take players because they have money.
mhm,
And the reason they're able to take, players like Kareem Benzema
mhm.
and Cristiano Ronaldo is because with soccer specifically, there's no cap. Like if you're
Yeah,
making money, you're making money. If you have the money, you can spend it on players, and you'll get it back tenfold, especially if you have somebody like Ronaldo. So it's really good that Messi came to the ML. I know we're talking about golf and the merger, but
that kind
it's
of
a
works
combination.
together.
Yeah, it's a combination of Saudi Arabia doing everything they can to bring sports to them. And while I would love for, sports to grow in everywhere and all sorts of popularity, the simple fact is there is nothing like European football and there is nothing like PGA golf.
That's one way
So
to put it. Yeah. I just personally think I get what you're saying there. I like the idea of growing sports everywhere, but we shouldn't be associating ourselves with countries whose governments, and I want to make this very clear, governments, because there's a difference between a country's people and country's government. You know, too many people will go off and blame the people of a country for all of the ills and wrongs, but in reality, it's the government. There is a big that. when the government of the country that is investing this much into sports is responsible for all of this shady stuff and all of this like proven stuff, especially considering some major historical events from about 20ish years ago in this country that happened in New York City that they were kind of
Mhm.
responsible for funding. I just don't agree with it. And I think that the recent news that the PGA Tour has decided to merge with Live Golf and basically become a Saudi-based tour. To put it simply, like one TikTok said, Saudi the game of golf. What happened? Oh no.
The Wizards and Bradley Beal will work to find a trade if the team elects to reset the roster. Beal's as good as gone.
Oh, that's gonna be. Let's let's hold off on that until we get to basketball. Man, I thought you were about to say something even crazier because that's cool and all, but like, come on, like, give me something crazy. Anyway, so the PGA Tour and Live Golf merged, and this has pissed off a lot of people. A lot of golfers who stayed loyal to the PGA Tour say they feel betrayed. A couple of them have suggested they won't even play. Um, a lot of them have been saying, this is a slap in the face to like the 9/11 Families Fund for families of victims of 9/11 because the PGA Tour like used them as a prop. It's like, hey, we support the people who lost loved ones of that tragedy, funded by the government that's created this golfing tour, and now they've just merged with them. And all I got to say is that, man, I really hope the U.S. government's probe into this ends up finding something shady and cancels it, because the U.S. government has announced they're going to investigate this merger because they probably don't want, because the PGA Tour is an international tour, but a lot of its
Yeah.
events are based in the U.S., and I don't think the United States is comfortable with, basically what is now a Saudi-backed sport having so much influence in the U.S.
It's a lot of chaos right now. I mean, I don't know. It's tough because on one hand, Liv was gonna really compete with PGA, and one couldn't survive with the other being around. They were both going to die if they were both. It's it's all complicated. Both,
Let
you
me put it
know.
like this. And I know if Mike's watching, he's going to get really angry because I'm going to do it again. So, in 1996, the motorsport of it called IndyCar, American Championship Car Racing, split into two separate leagues. All right, CART and the IRL. The sport has never recovered. They've since remerged about 10 years later, but it never recovered. That basically was what was going to happen with Live Golf and PGA. They would keep battling against each other, taking players away, taking events away. I don't know if they both would have folded, but eventually a merger was going to happen. But the fact that it happened so soon and in such shady circumstances is why I'm just looking at this like, yeah, I didn't watch golf to begin with, but I'm certainly not going to watch it now if it's going to be funded by, the Saudi government. That's just my take. Um, Quick note though
Yeah,
about,
it's
because
chaotic right now.
this is kind of related to it. Um, Messi going to Inter Miami is kind of related to it because Saudi Arabia has been trying to get top level soccer players around the world to come to their league. They already got Cristiano Ronaldo, who I think is on pace to set all of their league records in one season. And then they signed Karim Benzema to a massive deal. They were reportedly going to sign Messi, attract Messi to their top team with like a deal for like $4 billion.
1.6 billion over
1.6 billion. Okay.
but
4 years.
I think 2 years.
I thought it was 4 years, 1.6 billion, which would have been, I think, the largest
Um,
contract in the history of professional sports in the entire world.
well, yeah,
Unless,
it's $1 billion
yeah,
contract.
which I mean, like, what are you gonna do with that much money? That's like, so I'm very happy that Messi decided, I'm gonna come to the US. My one concern is this. You know how Pele ended his career in the US. His last team he played for after spending so many years
New
playing
York.
for Santos down in Brazil, he played for the New York Cosmos of like the National Soccer League. Um, that was a really big deal, like when he came.
Yeah,
I think Messi. The thing is, though, we've seen big European stars do this before with the MLS. Wayne Rooney going to DC United,
which is cool.
which was cool. Yeah, Zlatan Ibrahimovic going to all sorts of teams. Um,
He was in the Galaxy,
yeah,
last I remember. He
Galaxy.
was only in the Galaxy.
David Beckham was on the Galaxy. Um, this isn't like new, but this is probably the most high-profile player to ever sign with the MLS. And my
It's
one
the highest
concern,
profile player to ever play in the United States.
yeah, and my only concern, Messi is getting up there in age, and his stats were great with Paris Saint-Germain, but they weren't stellar like they had been with Barcelona. So my only
They're meant to
concern
be.
is that he's gonna the hype is gonna be there. People are gonna show up no matter what. My
Yep.
only concern is that people may not leave MLS after he retires because this is probably going to be his last stop. And my one concern is that when he leaves, a lot of the new fans are going to leave with him. That has always been the MLS's problem. Whenever one of these big stars from overseas comes in and brings their fan base with them, the fans leave when they finally retire. That's one of the reasons why the
You
MLS has struggled to grow and join the big four of American sports. That's just my take.
but we've never had somebody like Messi.
Well, I mean, the hype around David Beckham, I remember that. I didn't even pay attention to the MLS back in the early 2010s, and I still remember how hyped everyone was. Like, oh my God, David Beckham on the Galaxy, and then they, turned into a powerhouse at the start of the decade.
Yeah, I know, but also like Messi is significantly bigger than David Beckham ever was.
That's true. Don't let Victoria
He
Beckham
is
hear
the
you saying
second
that.
most followed athlete on social media, only behind Ronaldo. He is the best player of all time in his sport. He is still good. He's going to wipe the floor with these MLS players. Going to wipe the floor with them. They've never seen somebody like Messi. They never played against somebody like Messi, unless they've played internationally.
And
Messi
I mean,
is ridiculous.
and the fact that he's signing with Inter Miami, which is a relatively new club, they're one of the because MLS has been expanding rapidly for years now. Like they add new
Mhm.
teams basically every year. That's why it's been hard for
Mhm.
me to get into it because they add so many new teams. Um, And a lot of these new teams do really well. If you look at the teams that have recently won the MLS Cup, won their championship, let me pull it up real quick because I don't have it
Inter
memorized like I
Miami
do other
is
sports.
garbage, though.
Yeah, I don't have it memorized like I do other sports. If you look at the last, let's do last 5 years. The last 5 years in the MLS, three of the championships have been won by teams that were founded less than 10 years ago. 2018, Atlanta United won. 2021, New York City FC won. And last year, sorry, Kylie, Los Angeles FC won. Um, with the exception of Seattle and Columbus winning in 2019 and 2020, respectively, those three clubs have all been around for less than 10 years and they all won the championship. You know,
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. Expansion clubs recently in all sports have been doing really well, and that kind of helps
I
us
agree
segue
with
into our next topic.
I agree with this, Yoni. Messi not sharing the stage with Mbappe and Neymar will give him the stats. Still not that removed from spearheading a World Cup run. Exactly.
That's true.
We've simply never had somebody like Messi play in this country.
Oh, if only he could change his citizenship to American and play for us. Oh, and then
Man,
then,
I
then who would
wish.
be laughing now? Um, but yeah, I
Dude,
don't know.
once America wins the World Cup, it's over.
Oh yeah, I'm just have you seen Fox's marketing for the Women's World Cup coming up this summer in July? Basically, the whole
No.
marketing is people from different countries saying like, "Oh, we don't know how we're going to stop the U.S." You have people from from Europe going like, "Oh, the U.S. is unstoppable," and Japan's like, "What if we genetically replace the U.S. with like pigs or something?" Yeah, people, British people it's not what it actually said, but that's what the gist. British people are like, "Oh, bollocks, the U.S. is in the cup again," and it's just the U.S. players be like, "All right, stop us." Why can't we have that in the men's cup too? Why is it that our women's
Yeah.
team and I'm not bashing the women's team because they're awesome and I love them, but man, why can't both of our teams be good?
Yeah. Well, it's because I don't know. The women's they're just so dominant.
Oh, don't tell me you're one of those people who like Kylie. You're not one of those people who dislikes the women's team because they win all the time. Because that I've never understood that
No,
mentality. Okay,
they represent my country. Of course I want my country to win all the time.
yeah. I mean, I'll make it very clear here. Like, I'm not a huge fan of the U.S. all the time. Some of the stuff we do, both internally and externally, but every time one of our sports is played internationally, raw USA. Screaming Eagle in
Exactly.
the background. It's like with the
Exactly.
with the NASCAR Camaro that got entered in the 24-hour Le Mans over the weekend. I had people who had never watched sports car racing before being like, "Ah, yeah, where we finished 39th." It's like, well,
Oh
yeah,
my
it
god.
wasn't great, but also like, yeah, rah, USA. So I don't know. Well,
Let's move on to the stuff we really want to talk about, the Stanley Cup.
right. So this we were talking about expansion clubs at MLS doing well. This segues directly into our next part. Last night, the Stanley Cup Finals officially ended after 5 games. Ladies and gentlemen, the Vegas Golden Knights, who have only been around for 5 years, are Stanley Cup
6,
champions. 6 years? Six? Yeah,
6
yeah,
years.
yeah. It is six. It is six. The team that made the finals their first year of existence won the Stanley Cup last night, defeating the Florida Panthers. Which I personally, I was very flip floppy on this series. I originally kind of wanted Florida to keep the run going because if Florida had won, it would have been one of the greatest underdog stories in probably sports history. The worst team in the playoffs, making it and winning it all. But after seeing what Florida fans did at the end of Game 4, after Vegas took a 3-1 lead, when they started throwing trash onto the ice and the Florida players caused a huge brawl at the end of the game, I was all in on Vegas. I was like, okay, this is why Tampa's the superior Florida team. Like, go Knights. And last night they just whooped them 9-3. They
Kick their
absolutely
ass.
smacked them. The final 20 seconds, no players moved. The Florida players just laid down their sticks like, we're so sorry. But man, Vegas, I mean, I'm curious your thoughts
We
on
had a
this,
lot
Kylie.
of injuries, Florida did.
That is true. They did. And I'm curious on your thoughts on this, Kylie, because Vegas just did what Vegas broke the rules of sports. Expansion teams aren't supposed to be successful at the start. They're supposed to struggle. Throughout the entire history of sports, expansion clubs have always struggled. Even in MLS, where expansion clubs are competing for championships now, they still struggled their first few years. But in the NHL, the Vegas Golden Knights have made it to 2 Stanley Cups in their first 6 years of existence and now have a championship. I'm curious what your thoughts on that.
So, if you don't want the expansion team to be good, don't make good players available for them to pick in the expansion draft. I mean, that's one thing. And I mean, I know you can only protect so many players.
Yeah,
So I get that. Um, but it's fine. I mean, I'm happy, I love the Golden Knights, so I'm glad they won. And they only beat they now have the record for the quickest expansion team to win a cup in the NHL. They beat
I
the
think
Flyers.
the Flyers had the previous record. Oh, poor
Yeah.
Flyers fans.
Not my problem. Um, my team was in the second round this year, not my problem. We weren't worried about Bedard. Not my problem.
Fair enough.
Um, but I'm fine with it. Like it's not that big a deal to me. It's a lot better than allowing the Chicago Blackhawks to get Connor Bedard, I'll tell you that.
Oh, we're still not over that, huh? I mean, I'm not either,
Oh,
but
so
I
the Blackhawks did not
so
get Connor Bedard.
yeah, they did not deserve it at all. If I'm a hockey analyst, I'm looking very closely at Seattle now because
Mhm.
Vegas has set the bar ridiculously high for expansion teams. The
Yep.
expectation now going forward isn't to come into the league, um, establish a fan base, establish a culture, um, and spend years building something and maybe start pushing for playoffs. The expectations for expansion teams now are to come in and start winning immediately. The NHL has made their expansion draft very, very kind to expansion teams. You know, um, and part of it, I think, is because Vegas. I mean, Vegas already had a culture going in because right after Vegas got founded and had their expansion draft, there was the Las Vegas mass shooting, and that basically
Yeah.
the Golden Knights basically had something to play for. They're like, we're playing for this city that's hurting. They were also
Yeah.
the first professional sports team of the Big Four sports in Vegas. They had a grudge. They're like, this city, which needed some sports teams for a while, finally has a team. We're out here to prove that we can we're here to start things off for that. And
Yeah, for sure.
this has got my eyes pointed at Seattle. Seattle now, Seattle struggled in their first year, and it was a disappointment because everyone expected they would be like Vegas. But in year two, They made it to the playoffs and got to the second round. They actually were the team Vegas beat in the second round. And it really has opened the door now. You're going forward, looking at expansion teams if the NHL chooses to add any more, and I don't think they will because they have an even number of teams across the board. Going forward, Seattle, their expectations next year are you got to push for a cup now, because if Vegas can do it that quickly, you can too. So,
not necessarily. Vegas had a significantly better expansion draft. They had Marc-Andre Fleury, who I believe won the Vezina that year.
I don't know if do I have the energy to fact check that? Yes, I do.
I'm checking now.
Okay. That being said, I want to give a quick shout out to two members of the Vegas Golden Knights who just won their third Stanley Cups. I'm so sorry, Kylie. But do you know Alec Martinez and hang on. Make sure I get the names right. Two players on the Vegas team that I think Kylie in particular is very upset won another cup. Jonathan Quick and Alec Martinez, aka the two stars and heroes of the 2012 Kings that beat the Devils, have Stanley Cups now. Yeah. Yeah, let's celebrate some of the people who have Phil Kessel. Phil Kessel has another Stanley Cup. Hell yeah. I mean,
I don't know if he won the Vezina or not. I'm pretty sure he did win the Vezina.
Hang on. There's an easy way. Google Vezina Trophy. All right. The Vezina Trophy for Marc-Andre Fleury won the Vezina Trophy 2 seasons ago in the 2021 season. The Vezina Trophy that year was Pekka. Yeah. Oh, is Pekka is too good right now, Rene from the Nashville Predators.
That's right. Okay. I remember him winning the Vezina, but I could have sworn it was for the during their Stanley Cup run. Okay.
He was ridiculous during that cup run, though.
Yeah, regardless, Marc-Andre Fleury is a fantastic goalie.
Yeah. And I think his talents are wasting away. He's either with Minnesota or Chicago right now. He's with Minnesota. I remember he was on Chicago last year.
Yeah.
So, but this now begs the question. Who's the favorite to win the Stanley? Way too early Stanley Cup 2024 predictions. Who do we got? Because I'm always going to rock with my Lightning. We're still the team of the decade. I still think that we can remain competitive, especially after last year proved that even with our core AG, we could still make the playoffs. But there's a lot of teams out there.
There are a lot of teams out there, but I want to wait until the draft and free agency and trades happen and all that good stuff. Because, I mean, you're going to have the Devils, the Rangers, the Lightning. The Knights are obviously going to be in the playoffs.
Boston's going to want revenge after losing that much. I think Florida falls off. I'm going to say Florida falls off. We haven't really talked about Florida that much during this. I'll say that I said it earlier, but I'll say it again. I was 100% all for Florida pulling the upset of the century. But now I'm like, thank God they lost, because that team and that fan base acted so classless in Game 4 with the brawl and throwing trash onto the ice. Like, this is why Tampa runs hockey. Also, the eternal suffering of the Florida Panthers is intact. Last year around this time, I wrote an article for the website we used to work for about the Florida Panthers and how they have always suffered. This just adds on to it. Go on one of the most ridiculous Stanley Cup runs of all time, only to, have the entire hockey world turn against you because of how your fans and players act in the finals. And you get gentlemen swept by the Vegas Golden Knights, an expansion team who broke your record for quickest time to get to the Stanley Cup in just their first year. Because I think Florida had the record for the quickest time to get to a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, Flyers had the record.
No, St. Louis did. Excuse me, St. Louis did. Yeah, because St. Louis went to the Cup in their first 3 years of existence, but that was because the NHL put all the expansion teams in one conference and all the original 6 in another, and said, "Now play and see what happens." They set the expansion. That the late 60s, early 70s, the NHL basically said, "Expansion teams, I guess we can expand." But fuck all of you. You all are going to have to play each other, and one of you is going to have to play against the Canadians or the Bruins or whoever else we decide to send. You're all going to die. The Blues, the Golden Seals, and everybody's just looking. What did we do? We just wanted to have a team. And then
Oh man,
the Flyers showed up and ruined everything by actually being competitive.
good. But this is a good segue into the NBA because another team that lost from that state just lost the
Oh,
championship on
yeah.
Monday.
Well,
And I'm gonna say it right now. Miami, welcome to a very shitty feeling of your teams losing two championships in the same year.
it's okay. I knew we weren't going to win. I thought we could. Game two feels like a mirage. Like we really. First of all, I want to say this. Congratulations to the Denver Nuggets. After 47 years of being the black sheep of the NBA, of being the one team that, the most successful team to never make it to the finals. Congratulations on making it and winning it. I mean, you guys, Denver was clearly the best team in the league all season long. They went on what I saw. I think ESPN tweeted out a stat. They went on the third best playoff run of all time. They only lost, I think, 4 playoff games the entire series, which the only teams I think were better were like the Warriors from the 2017 Warriors, and I think the Chicago Bulls
2001
one of those
Lakers.
years, and the 2001
2001
Lakers.
Lakers. They swept every team in 2001 until they got to the finals in Philly, where Philly only won
Yeah,
one game.
they won game one, and that was the game where Allen Iverson stepped over Tyronn Lue. There is another great clip of that game where Allen Iverson and Kobe Bryant are jawing at each other, and somebody was able to read their lips and found that Kobe was making fun of Iverson's dreads, and Iverson was just, and the ref was
His
like,
grade
yeah, it's like, guys, what are you doing? just Iverson's like, hey, come on, man, he's talking about my hair. I can't let it's the funniest thing, but yeah, the Denver
Kobe.
Nuggets. I miss them too.
Yeah, it's very deserved. They definitely shut me up. Uh, Jokic is, and Yoni, if you're watching this is going to piss me off, but Jokic is the best center in the NBA. There's no
Oh,
doubt about it.
oh, she said it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. You can't deny it anymore.
Oh, she
Um,
said it. Wait. Did you guys hear that? Did you guys hear Joel Embiid's #1 fan, Kylie Sullenberger, say Nikola Jokic is the best center in the? Kylie, could you say it again? Could you say it again? Say it again, Kylie. Say it again
I've
for the
I've been
fans.
saying it ever since they won. Jokic is the best center in the league. You can't
Oh,
like
it's over. It's finally over. Kylie has
we'll
finally
see what
returned
happens
to
next year.
reality. Welcome
We'll see what
back.
happens. That being said, Embiid deserved the MVP, and
He
Jokic
did.
deserved every postseason accolade and award that he has gotten this year. Both
Yeah.
things are true, and people seem to forget what Embiid did in the regular season, which I get because it was such a terrible postseason. Not terrible, but it was an underwhelming postseason. Meanwhile, the guy you beat went on this incredible finals run and won it while you blew a 3-2 lead against your biggest rival, who lost to Miami, who lost to the Nuggets. So,
I
like, I tweeted the other day and I was like, I'm not going to defend any of the Sixers players. He is not top 25 all time.
Ooh, that's
Not top 25 all
questionable.
time.
I think we can we name 25 here. We're gonna try something. We're gonna name 25 players better than Jokic. Ready, watch this. Bill
I
Russell,
got you.
Kobe Bryant.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Jordan, LeBron, Bill Russell, Kobe Bryant, Wilt Chamberlain, Shaq.
Shaquille O'Neal, Hakeem Olajuwon, Charles Barkley, um, Elvin Hayes, Tim Duncan, that's 10. Let's see. Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, LeBron. We said LeBron already. Hang on. Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook. This shouldn't be this hard. Oh, Karl Malone, John Stockton. That's 18. Karl Malone, John Stockton, Clyde Drexler. That's 19. George Mikan, 20. I need 5 more. I need 5 more. I need 5 more. Allen Iverson, Chauncey Billups. It's 22. Steve Kerr. No, not Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr is a great shooter, isn't he? Steve Kerr. Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman. I need one more player better than Jokic. Dwayne Wade. There we go. 25 players. Screw you, Yoni. 25 players better than Nikola Jokic.
Yeah.
Not a lot of current players, though. That's one thing I should point out. We named a lot of guys who are retired. The only current players I think we named were Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, and Westbrook. What?
Magic Johnson.
Oh, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. Holy shit. That's 27 players better than Jokic. Oh, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That's 28.
Kareem.
I don't think he's even top 30.
Not top 30.
Yeah, no, not yet.
Not Giannis?
Yet. Yeah, Giannis. That's 29.
But regardless,
I'm gonna name a 30th player that's better than him.
Go ahead. Ugh. I just saw a
Dirk Nowitzki. There we go. Dirk Nowitzki there. Steve Nash, 31.
I wouldn't go Steve Nash.
I would. Steve Nash is arguably the best player outside of Charles Barkley to never win a title. I will die on that hill.
Allen Iverson's better than Steve Nash.
Yes, but they're both better than Jokic for now. Steve Nash is on the cusp. Yeah.
That's not to say that Jokic won't ever be on that list, but currently, no.
Is Jokic like top 5 best player in the league right now? Probably. He's probably the best player in the league right now.
Easily. He's easily top 5 player.
But to point, he's not up there yet. He's got to keep going.
I'm still giving Giannis the number 1 player in the league right now, but
yeah,
I'll put Jokic.
Yeah, Giannis is ridiculous. Yeah. I don't know though.
I see. Recency bias is crazy.
It is because there's so many good players from back in the day that people just say, oh, whenever people say, oh, they played with plumbers and electricians. No, they're still good. They just played in a different era. I think we've been over this before.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, you have all-time baseball players throwing 60-mile-an-hour meatballs, but different times. That's why I don't know. It's tough, but I would not say he's at 25 yet. Definitely not. But will he get there one day? Probably.
Yeah.
Don't forget, the Nuggets were the most loaded team this year. Jamal Murray stayed healthy. The Nuggets had a lot of good going for. I'm not going to say luck because it's not luck, but they had a lot of good stuff going for them this year. So
they had a little bit of luck.
And they capitalized on. Every team has some sort of luck go their way for every championship.
And I just want to quickly shout out some of the players who won their first NBA championship. Who won their title with this? Let's give a big round. Uncle Jeff. Jeff Green is an NBA champion. A man drafted by the Seattle Supersonics is now a champion of the NBA. Finally. Ish Smith, the legendary journeyman himself, Ish Smith, who has played with a different team every single year. Ish Smith, who was on that 2016 76ers team.
Yep, he was.
Yeah. Ish Smith is an NBA champion. DeAndre Jordan, a member of that legendary, what was it? Lob City? The Lob City Clippers. Is an NBA champion now. He was on this team. I don't think he played at all.
How the hell did the Clippers not win with those guys on that team?
I don't know. Reggie Big Government Jackson. Detroit Pistons legend is an NBA champion.
Oh my God.
KCP is a 2-time NBA champion. Lakers got it first.
Yep.
First.
What made me happy though was to see that the championship shirts weren't dog shit this year. They actually look kind of nice.
Yeah, and I'll say this. Somebody, I do want to say something about the way we award the trophies. Somebody pointed this out on TikTok. I saw in the NHL when they give the trophy, they let the moment breathe. You know, there's no like interviews or anything. They just get the commissioner comes out, everyone boos him. He gives the captain the trophy, and then the captain passes it to each player to take a stroll around the ice
A
with it.
lap.
In the NBA, they just fill it with interviews and talking heads, and it's like, guys, let the players celebrate. Like,
Yeah, yeah, that's what I like about the Stanley Cup the most. And I'll die on this hill. It's the hardest trophy to win.
it really is. And we saw it this year because so many teams expected to dominate the playoffs like got knocked out in the first round. It's that hard. I
Yeah,
do want to
I
say
mean
I
the
do want to
Rangers lost. Hmm?
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say the Rangers lost to the Devils. The Bruins lost to the Panthers. The Hurricanes lost to the Panthers. The Hurricanes are my pick to go to the final.
I thought it was going to be the Hurricanes. Really,
Me too. Um, in the West, I mean, it's the hardest trophy to win.
it's very rare that you see dynasties pop up in hockey nowadays because of how hard it is. Although the Lightning came very
Oh yeah,
close, and I think they will. I do want to say this.
I
I
would
did want to
I
go
would
on a little.
consider the Lightning
Yeah,
a mini dynasty.
yeah, they were a mini dynasty. I do want to go on a little rant though. Back to the NBA because I have a bone to pick with a certain media company who who okay look okay TLDR. We all know that ESPN kind of sucks. ESPN's coverage of sports in general just isn't good. They really only care about like three sports: football, baseball, basketball. Their hockey coverage has been horrific. It got so bad that they didn't even broadcast the finals this year. They gave it to TNT, which is a channel not everyone gets.
He's got a point. The
Oh
NBA
yeah.
also has the owner speak first. It's kind of weird because most people don't care what the owner says. Also, Nuggets owner look like he doesn't know how to use a microphone. I
I
didn't see
think
that. But I believe you.
are the Denver Nuggets owned by Stan Kroenke? Because if they are, then I'm my opinion. I'm about to be very upset if it turns out that they're owned by Stan Kroenke.
I don't think they are. I'm pretty
They
sure they're
are. They're
not.
owned by Stan Kroenke.
Well, but I mean, the only one that can really it's tough because 7 game series typically the better team wins. Typically. With, the NFL, there's a 1 game, anything can happen.
Mhm.
So I don't know. It's with 7 game series, you do have upsets, obviously, like Florida beating Boston, but generally the better team will come out on top in a 7 game series. It might get to 7 and it could go to overtime, but usually the better team wins. Usually.
Yeah. So very quickly. So here's my little rant. ESPN had 6 hours of pregame coverage for Game 5 of the finals. They started broadcasting their pregame coverage 6 hours to go. They took pauses for their other afternoon shows. 6 hours of pregame. You know what was going on while that was
What can you talk
happening?
about for 6 hours?
Exactly. There was the College World Series is on, you know, Major League Lacrosse, golf, baseball, all sorts of sports are going on. And ESPN decides none of those are important. Here's 6 hours of Stephen A. Smith yelling at you.
Yeah.
That combined with the fact that ESPN basically just, completely ignored the Denver Nuggets the entire postseason. Like coming into the finals, they would just continuously talk about, other teams that didn't make the finals or just talk about the Heat. Like they wouldn't be like going into Game 5. The big talking point was you would expect is like, can the Nuggets close it out? It wasn't that. It was can the Heat avoid elimination? It's like okay, maybe, but what team is going to eliminate them? ESPN, the team that you refuse to talk about. ESPN, it's so oversaturated with their personalities. I can't take it seriously anymore. Like, you know how many other sports we missed out on getting broadcast because you wanted to do 6 hours of pregame for game 5? That is absolutely ridiculous. Like,
Yeah,
it's
it is.
no wonder ratings are in the toilet. I mean, people already aren't watching things on TV anymore, but still, like, God, this whole postseason has made me realize just how little ESPN cares about sports that aren't the big three that they cover: baseball, football, and basketball. And I'm a little scared to see what's going to happen going forward because their baseball is the only major sport on right now. ESPN, God forbid, is going to have to cover other sports. You know, I mean, speaking of like
Yeah,
pregame, like my God, the Women's College World Series was being broadcast on ESPN last week, and they would just go straight to the game without any pregame coverage. You could have given them a little bit, even like 10 minutes of pregame, but you didn't. Instead, you spent it just talking about the NBA Finals. And I get it. The NBA Finals are awesome. But this year's Finals, like, dude, like, there's not. The NBA Finals don't have enough content in general to justify 6 hours of pregame. That's
yeah.
just my take.
No, no, you're right. And I mean, we saw it firsthand when I forget who asked Stephen A. and I believe her name is Molly. They asked like who in New York has the best shot at winning a championship. The
It's Michael
Giants,
King.
the Jets. Yeah, the Giants, the Jets, the Rangers, or whatever. And he said Rangers, and Stephen A. and Molly just like laughed at him, saying it doesn't count. The Rangers are an original six team.
Yeah, the
And
Rangers
Stephen
are.
A. Smith at the time was the highest paid guy on ESPN's payroll. It's now gone to Pat McAfee. Hopefully, ESPN doesn't destroy Pat McAfee's show and destroy, what made Pat McAfee's show so enjoyable. But they like scoffed at it, said it doesn't count when the Rangers are an original six team. And Stephen A. Smith was the highest paid guy at ESPN. You should be better. Like it'd be one thing if ESPN kind of was better at covering hockey, but they're not. They're terrible at covering hockey and baseball. But hockey's worse. And you would think the highest paid guy there would do his due diligence and be aware of the fact that the Rangers, of all the teams, had the best shot of winning the next New York championship. Because the Rangers looked damn good. They were just coming off an Eastern Conference Finals appearance the year before. So, and again, they're an original six team.
The disrespect ESPN shows to other sports is truly incredible. I still remember the days back when they had NASCAR and they would cut away from races to go to college football pregame shows. Truly, they don't care about sports outside of their big three plus college. That's it.
Yeah.
And it truly breaks my heart because, sports, one of the best things about sports is that every single sport has something good to offer. We were talking
Mm-hmm.
about golf at the beginning. All right. Look, you and I may not like watching golf. We enjoy playing it. I mean, I haven't played golf in forever. Probably won't. It's not really my thing. But to many people, golf is huge. And
Golf is
the
huge.
lack, yeah, every sport has ridiculous fan bases. And to basically just have one of your personalities say, oh, that doesn't count. Oh, we don't give a shit
Your
about
biggest
hockey.
personality.
Your biggest personality, that's like extremely problematic. And I don't know if Stephen A. Smith is being genuine there. I think he's just,
He is.
playing a character. Well, the thing
No.
is, Stephen A. Smith has a sports column on like a Philadelphia newspaper that he still writes for. And that's where you see his actual personality. I truly think Stephen A. Smith is just playing a character because there's no way, like, I've seen some of his takes, they're that bad. It's the same with Skip Bayless. I'm starting to believe that actually any of these guys, it feels like they're playing a character. You know, like, I just
I
don't
understand.
trust that because they make such outlandish takes all the time and say stuff that people who truly enjoy sports would not say. So I want to truly, if Michael K tells me, the Rangers have the best chance of winning a championship for the city of New York, I'd be like, interesting. Let's go into more of that. That's a good one good one. I would just say, oh, who cares? That doesn't count. Like, he has to be playing a character. People who actually care about sports don't talk like that.
So, I mean, when we had Booker McFarland on this show a while ago,
Yeah, I
he
still
said
can't believe
there's
he did
also an
that.
entertainment aspect to it.
That is
And
true.
I get there's an entertainment aspect to it. And you do things, certain things for clicks, and you just deal with the backlash because it gets you clicks. And but the thing that you and I both really work our asses off to do is have our legitimate opinions
Hmm.
and not have any takes that we post are our actual takes. We're not posting stupid things. And I mean, dude, I see so much of it in the Philadelphia media. It's ridiculous. You would think like this city that just is so addicted to all 4 to 5 of their major sports of their major teams, like you would think the media.
I don't think we can count the Union as a Philadelphia team because they play in Chester, and that's I should probably keep my mouth shut. I don't want to get us in trouble.
No,
Let's just say that Chester,
no, you're not
Pennsylvania
wrong.
is Chester, Pennsylvania is an interesting place.
Chester, Pennsylvania is a very shitty place, and I want them to go away from Chester, but they're not going to get away from Chester.
Please leave
It's not.
Chester. We all would feel a lot safer going to the stadium. Sorry. Look, just regard to Chester, Pennsylvania is one of those towns like Gary, Indiana, that's kind of been neglected by the state, and as a result, it's gotten a bit of a bad reputation.
Oh, it's not a
It's a
bad
trick.
reputation. It's actually bad.
Okay, yeah, it's what, yeah, okay. It's kind of a slum, and they have the team. It's like how, before they gentrified the area around the Nationals Park, walking to that park was always like, oh, this neighborhood is interesting. It's just one of those neighborhoods. You're like, oh my god, I've seen this in an episode of Law and Order. I'm gonna get no.
Yeah,
Just so we're
if
clear,
you're not.
I'm not. Just so we're clear, I'm not trying to be like offensive. I'm just saying it's like
No, if
it's
you're not from the area, you
yeah,
definitely, are
yeah,
like, "What the hell is this?" So,
yeah.
it's but I just wanna make it clear for anybody that's listening, if you hear Westchester, that is very different from Chester. It's not like the western part of Chester, like, it trust me.
Isn't
Um,
the western part of Chester is like a forest?
but, like, you know what I mean, though, like, it's not actually the western part of Chester. Um,
Yeah,
but like it's a nice stadium and you can go there with no issues and virtually, but it's for a city that loves all their teams, you would expect better from the media, but the biggest stations are asking like what was one I saw. They just ask the dumbest questions, and it's just like, why would you do these things instead of having actual takes and building off genuine stuff like that? Like, I don't I get you with the clicks, and the clicks get you the attention and the money and whatever,
yeah.
but at the same time, like, there's just some things where you're just like, "Why are you the way that you are?" Like, there's this one guy, Joe I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he's Joe J. Leo, he works for WIP, he's freaking awful. He has the dumbest takes. I mean, every now and then he actually like, there's been 1 or 2 tweets that he's ever posted that I've agreed with, and nobody agrees with him, but he still has his job and a following, and it blows my mind. I just don't like people that, do things for the clicks instead of having actual takes, because people who, you know some people rely on the the media and Sports Center and the radio stations to have, an idea of how a player is doing or a team is doing or what a team should do with the player. People kind of sometimes rely on that if they're too busy to watch an actual game or stuff like that. So
I agree.
you you have to have actual opinions. That way people can be actually informed and not have stupid takes. But here
I
we
think
are.
everybody just wants to be famous, and that's the problem. Like,
Yeah,
full disclosure, I don't give a shit if this podcast ever, like, becomes Pat McAfee show levels. I'd like it if it did.
I
I'd
wanted
like
to.
it.
That'd be dope.
I would too. That would be pretty fun. But I don't care about getting clicks or like getting people like to know my name. I'm just trying to, like, have fun and share my opinions on sports. That's it.
Yeah,
I feel like we need more of that honesty in the sports media landscape because
we
when it
do.
starts becoming more about you and not the people you're talking about, that's the problem.
Exactly. And I mean, we don't do the numbers that, Pat McAfee does or whatever. And I mean, Pat
I'd
McAfee
love
is
if we could.
right. Pat McAfee
Yeah.
does a damn good job of having actual takes and everything. So Pat McAfee's actually, he's
Yeah.
funny and he's not stupid.
With that being said, though, I don't know if I'm comfortable with him having Aaron Rodgers on every single episode, but that's
Every
beside the
Tuesday.
point. Yeah. Um, hey, listen, we got about 10 minutes left on the show, guys. So let's quickly talk about the MLB. Did you see the reverse boycott game the A's had yesterday? So, if anyone who's
Yeah.
listening didn't see this, the Oakland A's are in the process of being sold to Las Vegas, are relocating to Las Vegas. And A's fans, as a result, they have basically sold off all the good players to make the team as terrible as possible to justify, so they can justify a move to Las Vegas. As a result, A's fans have not been showing up because obviously the team is terrible. Why would you go watch it? The stadium is shit. Hey, look, no one's coming to our games. Let's conveniently move to Las Vegas. But yesterday, 27,000 A's fans showed up for a reverse boycott where the entire time they were at the game, they kept chanting, sell the team, sell the team. A's belong in Oakland. A's belong in Oakland. You know,
And it
there was
was
a one.
loud.
It was. And there was one point like in the fifth inning where every single person went quiet because the A's had been in Oakland for 50 years, and that was their way of saying, like this is what's going to happen. And they just stayed quiet during the fifth inning, and it was freaky, you know.
Yeah.
And I agree with them.
And oh yeah, for sure. But at the
Like
same time, like they just gave the owner a lot of money.
exactly. I think honestly, I think that might be for the best because at this point, I mean, just start going to the games and show that you actually will show up. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It's sad because I feel like we're past the point of no return, and that the A's are still going to move to Vegas. But I would love to see them stay. Well, I do know this: if they do move, the city of Oakland is going to declare war on Las Vegas because that's two of their teams they've taken from them.
Yeah,
They're just
exactly.
the denizens of Las Vegas wake up one morning to just see a massive army, like if you get a Mad Max esque army of Oakland fans out there being like, "Give us our teams back, Vegas. We want our teams back."
Exactly. And for those who don't understand this part of the whole ordeal, the reason the Athletics are able to make money still without needing they don't need fans. They simply do not need fans in the stands to make money. And that is because of their shareholding rights with the broadcasts and all that stuff. So they literally do not need fans in the stands to make money. Because they have the lowest payroll in baseball, I'm pretty sure
Yep.
they they are able to make money. That's why they sell all their good players because the good players need, a lot of money. And a lot of money means they are going to need fans in the stands and it's the owner doesn't care. And we talk about this all the time. When Calvin was first ever on this show, we complained about owners not caring.
They really
So,
don't. If you have an owner who cares about your sports franchise, cherish them because they are a diamond
yeah,
in the rough.
I absolutely love the Phillies owner and the Eagles owner, John Middleton and Jeffrey Lurie. I love them.
Yeah, they genuinely care about the teams and the cities. A lot of owners are just in it for the cash, which is sad. But
Yeah.
I look at the situation with Oakland and feel like it's just a microcosm of what's happening in sports. People are going
Mhm.
where the money is, and it's a damn shame because the Oakland is a small town. Oakland is a small town version of a city. All right, Oakland's a big place, but it's kind of like a small townish city. It's one of
Mhm.
those cities that isn't big enough to gain like international notoriety, but it's still a pretty big city. And the sad thing is, sad thing is, Oakland is just losing everything. They lost their football team
Yeah.
to Vegas. They lost their basketball team to San Francisco, and now they're losing their baseball team to Vegas again. And it truly sucks because they even had a hockey team at one point. They just plain lost their hockey team. Their hockey team just the Oakland Seals or the California Golden Seals just they lost them to Cleveland of all places. which that didn't last long. Look up the Cleveland Barons, guys. If, by the way, if you're listening in, look up the Cleveland Barons and read up on what happened to them. That they were the team that was formed after the Seals relocated from California, and yeah, that's one of the biggest fuck ups in NHL history. The Cleveland Barons. They did
That's
not last
crazy.
long,
No?
but no, they did not. They lasted 3 years.
Oh my goodness.
They did have a nice logo, though.
I do like that logo.
Yeah, but yeah, they lasted 3 years before they merged
That's
with the
crazy.
Minnesota. They merged with the Minnesota North Stars in '78 after they had folded.
Didn't they become...
Dallas.
Yeah.
So technically, you could say that Dallas stole Oakland's hockey team. But
I'm not giving Dallas credit.
yeah, that was the Oakland. That was them, the California Golden Seals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't know what it's supposed to be either.
Golden probably because of the gold rush and stuff.
Oh, what is this logo?
What?
That was their original
Ew.
logo.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
The '60s were a
That's
mistake.
terrible. All right, well, we're up on an hour. You want to send us home?
Well, guys, thank you very much for tuning in to today's episode of the Beer Battered Sports Podcast. Great to see. I think we got through this entire episode without any technical difficulties. That's awesome.
Finally.
This podcast is a proud affiliate of the Fired Up Sports Network. Go follow all of their podcasts, especially Bell Smashers, which this lady happens to be a part of. You can follow us on all of our social media platforms at bbsports_pod. Check out our Twitter bio to get your hands on some of our merch. Trust me, it is great. We will see you guys next week for episode 70. Well, Kylie and Calvin will. I'm on vacation. I'm going to the beach, so you won't see me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You know what?
That's
Funny, before we go, the funny story, originally the plan was, I think all of us, you were also going to be on the same vacation trip we're going on. Sorry to bring it up. I think the plan was we were going to broadcast from from the condo we're renting our podcasts, which would have been crazy because, we'd be trying to do the podcast and we'd have to yell into the other room, "Hey guys, put your pants back on. Stop acting like weirdos. We're on the air." We'd have people bursting in just with alcohol being like, "Hey, you guys want to get in? What's up?" Think about it. It would have happened.
No, it wouldn't have.
No. Anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's episode. And Kylie and Calvin will see you next week. Peace.